Hi YouTube and welcome to another video. So in today's video we're going to be talking about the Vladimir versus Pantheon matchup. Now the Vladimir versus Pantheon matchup is a lot easier in the mid lane than in the top lane, I feel like. But it is relatively easy in top lane as well. It's just like, just easier in the mid lane, right? He has less room to run you down and to freeze the wave or something because the lane is a lot shorter. So in generally speaking, the matchup is a lot easier in the mid lane. Now that is if you also go an aggressive setup. If you go like a scaling setup into Pantheon, it feels like sometimes he can just win all-ins. And in order to match that, I also prefer to have an aggressive setup. So typically I like to go Airy and then Gathering Storm to not just go full early game, but also have some scaling for the late. In this matchup specifically, because almost every Pantheon always goes Ignite, I like to go full aggression, so Airy with Scourge and Ignite myself, and then it feels like the Pantheon has very little counterplay. You still have to be careful from time to time from like all-ins, but the Pantheon has very little counterplay. So what are the main pointers in this matchup? Of course, one, go a full aggressive setup, and number two, make sure to W his W, and if you can always do that, then you should be fine. Now a good Pantheon, sometimes what happens, I don't really see people do this in the mid lane, but in top lane, they just quickly tap their Q, their spear. And that makes it a bit annoying because they're constantly like, you know, getting you low and making sure that you're not healing up. And then they can all-in you. But in those cases, it's just like also chill. Because like after your first recall, if you buy some ability haste, you have permanent sustain, so he can't really kill you anyway. But let's take a look here at the matchup. So obviously he's a melee champion, we are a range champion, so we have the advantage. Typically I see Pantheon start Q, but this one I think started W, which caught me off guard. So here I used my range advantage, but then he did W and I was really caught off guard. But it's relatively fine, because he's fighting in my minion wave and we are also having Airy Scourge. So we have like a lot of damage. Here I actually should have walked up, looked for the red Q. That is my bad, guys. But so yeah, typically also, as a reference, this is Diamond 2 Elo. So here, I should have walked up for the red Q, but typically that's what we do. We use our range advantage. And whenever he wants to walk up with his W, we just W that. And then we're chilling. Okay, here I was a bit caught off guard by his range on the W. I haven't played this matchup in a long time, but it's completely fine. Once we are level 2, we're just invincible, you know. At level 1, if he starts W, you can just play it a little bit more safe. So here we go W, and now you'll see very soon, if he just jumps onto us, we just W it. He takes a lot of damage, right? And we just go for a full trade here. Okay. And that's gonna be a rinse and repeat for the rest of this matchup. He won't have much counterplay, you know. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is your W, right, has like a 26-second cooldown. His W has a 13-second cooldown. So that means that you can't just always W his W, right? Sometimes you're just going to have to play safe. So when you W his W, you will have to play relatively safe and be scared of an all-in, because at all points in time he could flash onto you when you don't have W and then just look to all-in you with Ignite. And he has a lot of burst damage, so you have to be careful of that. So here, this is exactly what I mean. Now, he was already too low to start with. So he didn't even flash, he went onto us, and he was way too low to start this trade with, so I feel like this was just bad by him. But if he were a little bit lower, I would never walk up like this, and I would play a lot more safe until I have my W. Now I was healthy enough, knowing he couldn't kill me, so I was fine with walking up. And then we just get the free kill. We look to shove in the wave. Of course, we want to reset right now, because we're low. We built Boots of Speed and Dark Seal. That's my go-to first recall on Vladimir. And if I have some extra gold, I would buy an Amp Tome. So we come back to lane, and again, we just block his W. It's as simple as that. I think we even did QW, which is something you also could do. Like if Pantheon is going to W onto you, you can always do QW, because your Q animation gets cancelled if you instantly press W after it. So it's like super fast Q animation. So you can actually do it before your W, but if you don't feel safe to do that, it's also fine to just do W. Just be aware that typically it's very useful to do QW rather than W and then Q, because at level 3 Pantheon has his E, and if you W his W and then you want to Q him afterwards, he could do his E and then block your Q damage. And then you see it's going to be a bit of mind game, so then you have to wait, like will he do his E instantly? Will he wait with his E? So then I have to wait with my Q. So it becomes a little bit more difficult. So to have some guaranteed damage off, I like to do QW rather than WQ, right? But the hardest part of this matchup is playing around your W cooldown, right? Like right now, look, we're still on a 16-second cooldown, but his W is already coming up. So you have to be a bit careful. If you are so healthy like this, and you have like a wave in which you can trade, it's actually fine to let him trade onto you typically. But if you're a bit lower, you have to be careful. But you see, I take my space here. I'm really waiting for my W cooldown to come online. Okay. So I'm just gonna fast forward this a little bit. So here he Ws, and I was surprised a little bit by his range, by his W range, but this is completely fine, honestly, because I'm still healthy enough. And you see, there he blocked my red Q damage, right? So it's a mind game. It's like, will he do it instantly or will he wait with it? If he does it instantly, typically I wait a little bit, right? I wait a little bit in case he would do it instantly. Then after it's over his E here, I can just do my red Q. So here I waited a little bit, but then he also waited a little bit and only then he did his E. So that meant that I had to do my Q because it would just run out, you know. We're chilling, we are on our side of the lane. That's also very important. If you can, as the Vladimir, try to be on your side of the lane until you are strong enough to the point where you can just perma push and look to dive him. Right. Now we don't have our W, so we have to be very careful of like a flash W onto us. So you really want to play around your own W cooldown. So we do have W here. He does flash onto us, right? Indeed. Again, I didn't react to the W, even though I was expecting it, right? We're a bit rusty perhaps in that regard. But you also don't have to do it if you're healthy enough, right? So here we're just healthy enough, so it's completely fine. But yeah. Typically, of course, if you can react to it, do react to it. It's also very, like, logic that he wants to go for a W flash there. Like, if your W is on cooldown, you should always be prepared that Pantheon wants to flash onto you if you're relatively low. Here we try to shove out the wave as quickly as possible because we're low, and then we just reset. We spend our gold, we buy a Fiendish Codex. I like going ability haste in this matchup because it makes sure that I have my W more up and make sure that I have my Q on a shorter cooldown, and it's just easier to play this lane because this lane is very ability rotated. So, or ability oriented, you know, like in some melee matchups, like a Yone or something, this is maybe not a good example, but like in some melee matchups, you don't always have to play around your W. You can just play with your Q, E, and auto attacks. But this is a very pool or W oriented matchup, and then ability haste is really nice in this matchup. So again here is going to be a rinse and repeat to show you guys how this matchup works. He likes a W, I W his W, and then here it's mind games. Do I do my Q instantly or not? If I want to do it instantly, then I am at risk. If he also does his E instantly, right, it's not going to hit. So if I think that he's going to do it instantly, I should wait. If I think that he's going to wait with his E, I should do it. Now, he already did his E beforehand here, so I should have a free Q here onto him, right? He didn't have his E in the first place, but I just explained it so you guys understand what I mean with mind games. And then here we're going to look to dive him. So he E's too soon, we do the ignite, and he will be dead here. And there we go. And you can go as far as possible, like as you want in those limit testing. That's completely fine. We escape. And now the matchup is just over, and that's how you basically get the lead in this matchup. And now it's not even fair anymore. Like, look at his items, look at our items. And it's still gonna be, like, you still have to be scared of the Pantheon, because Pantheon is still gonna do a lot of damage, and almost at all points, it's like a Camille, or a Yone, or an Akali. At all points, whether or not you are fed, and those champions are behind, they can always one-tap you almost. So you still have to be careful from their all-ins, and you still have to play it properly and W their Ws. Or like W Pantheon's W. I'll give you guys one more example. So here again we W the W, right? We E, so I did want a Q here. I also didn't have Q, but I did want a Q here. Right, so what you could do typically is charge E. Then his reaction will be to block your E with your E, and then you can just Q him for free afterwards. And that way you should win the trades. And there I just ult Q him. Why? I was getting, so let me explain this real quick, and this is going to be the last thing I say in this matchup. But here, it's very important that I ult, to make sure that I don't give him any counterplay. So look, here, I am getting relatively low, right? I am getting relatively low here from this trade. Right now, if Pantheon were to get once onto me, I would screw up my W once. He could probably just kill me, because that's Pantheon damage, you know? Now, I killed him a couple times, so now I have a shutdown. In order to make sure, what's the worst thing I could do is give Pantheon a kill, give him a shutdown, and let him get back into the game. So if I'm getting around 50% HP or below 50% HP, what I typically want to do is just make sure that I heal up. So either hit Qs on the minions, hit a red Q onto him, or ult red Q him, to make sure that I'm really healthy again, and that he can't just one-tap me out of nowhere. Right? I want to put myself in a position where if I make one mistake, I'm not just dead, you know. So that's what we want to do here. So right now with this HP, if I were to make one mistake where I don't W his W, I would just die probably. So therefore, knowing that I have a red Q coming up, I will get a lot of healing, especially when I do my ult onto him. I ult red Q him to get him low and to make myself super healthy. And now look at the matchup. Pantheon can't play. He has no chances of killing me, and we're in a very favorable spot right now. And that's exactly how you wanna play these games. Now the enemy Briar is hovering us here. That's why you always ward. I have to W because Briar goes onto me, so now I have to be safe because I don't have my W. Pantheon were to recall, and there we go. So that's gonna be the matchup, guys. It's just rinse and repeat. Play with your ranged advantage. Look to W his W. Play the mind games with your E and his E and your Q and his E, right? Make sure you almost never get below 50% HP. Be very aware of that his W cooldown is a lot shorter than your W cooldown, and then you should be fine. And especially when you go in aggressive setup with Ignite yourself, it's very difficult for him to just all-in you because you can also all-in him, right? So that's the gist of the matchup. Now, hopefully that was clear to you guys. Again, feel free to give your own tips or your own opinions in the comments down below, so everybody learns something from this and everybody can help each other out. Now, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye.